Skrmetta show. Thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Today's show, maybe a little bit more somber in mood. Usually we rattle off a few topics. Usually we're here to have some fun, talk about some stuff that you need to know, or that I feel like you need to know. Today is not like that. Today, unfortunately, we're going to be talking exclusively about the terrorist attack in London. Sometimes we do the show a day before. Sometimes we do the show the day of. Today's one of those situations where we're doing the show on Wednesday, the day of. So the terrorist attacks have just kind of happened. A lot of the stuff I'll be saying on the show is news coming in, maybe updated. So if I say 4 are dead, and Saturday you hear 6 are dead, we didn't get it wrong. It's just the news is coming in fast. I'll tell you exactly what we know now. I'll tell you what we know so far. And I'll also talk about what this means as far as this war that is going on with the jihadists and Western civilization. There's a lot to dig up here. There's a lot to dig through. What we will not do, what I can promise you we will not do, is what the rest of the hack media is doing and pushing a certain political agenda. We are not doing that. Nothing we say will be for pro-right, pro-left, anti-left, anti-right, pro-Trump, anti-Trump. This is not a retaliation move. These terrorists don't work like that. These ideals of their religion and their group, these jihadists, this is something that has been going on for a long, long time. This isn't something that they decided to do because Donald Trump became president. This isn't something they decided to do because of a bill being passed. This isn't something they decided to do just because it's the year anniversary of another terrorist attack. This is something that happens all the time. We have seen it for decades now. Terrorist attacks, train bombings, hospital bombings, bombings on the street, suicide bombers, knife attacks. How many times have we seen a beheading video sent over? So this is not something that was done in retaliation to anything that's happening right now. This is a war continuing in which they have waged on Western civilization. I have no idea where you're from listening. I have no idea where you're from watching or what your ideals are. But I would guess that you're not part of the jihadist group. Thus, we're on the same team. Religion, color, country, irrelevant. There is a war. There is a real war happening right now between this group, and I don't want to generalize, and I don't think I will generalize, but this is a small group in the Islamic faith that is radicalized and believes that they are fighting a war for their future and their children's future and their God's future, and they're fighting a war that in our world is completely theoretical, right? Think about it. They're fighting for the future. They're fighting for a takeover, a jihadist takeover of Western civilization. That flag that you see, the black flag with the white writing, they want to see that flag on American streets. They want to see that flag flown from big buildings in London, in Germany, all over the world. That's not going to happen in their lifetime. That's not going to happen in our lifetime. But they're fighting. They're giving up their lives. They're sacrificing themselves because they think that's their down payment for the future. They think that that is them paying the ultimate price for that future because they believe that much in it. They believe that much in what they are fighting. Now, before I get too deep into that, let's catch up on what happened, just in case you don't know what has happened. Today, Wednesday, March 22nd? Yeah, March 22nd, in London, on the Westminster Bridge, a suspect of what they are saying, a lot of this is coming from the news over in London. So the jargon, the terms, may be a little sticky, okay? They said this man was of Asian descent. Now, to someone in America, they're going to think Was this guy Japanese? Was he Chinese? What does that mean? They're talking about South Asia. Okay? So we know the man is from descent of something like India, Bangladesh, places like that. So in our world, in American kind of context, he is of Indian descent. Okay? He has not been named. There was a suspect named. Turned out that that was false, so we won't even bring his name into this. The suspect used a vehicle, which is incredibly consistent with other jihadist attacks, used a vehicle on the Westminster Bridge, plowed over as many possible pedestrians as he could, led up to the gates of Parliament, got out, had a machete, a long knife, sword type deal. Everything I've heard is described as a machete, so that's what we'll do here. Used a machete, attacked a police officer, stabbed him, killed the police officer. The suspect was then gunned down by a separate police officer during a separate incident when he tried to attack that police officer. He didn't die at the scene. The suspect they tried to keep him alive, CPR. They tried to keep him alive because in situations like this, it's much more important to have the terrorist, the mass murderer alive to question him, to answer, or to see what his motive is, to see who he's working with, where he came from, all of that. They could not keep him alive. He died later at the hospital. Currently, as of right now, as of 5:30 Central Standard Time in America, there are 3 deaths, including the police officer, 4 deaths if you include the suspect who died later. Now, one thing that I've seen in all of the news coverage of this is they're describing it as they're using the same word to describe this attack, and I don't believe the word is correct. I want to challenge you to challenge this word, and we're going to do some critical thinking together. Everyone has said that this attack is senseless. A senseless act of violence, a senseless tragedy, right? I don't think it's senseless. Because to the attacker, and we're going to try and go into the attacker, the suspect's brain here. To the suspect, this is the opposite of senseless. This is the most important thing that he has ever done. This is his ticket to the afterlife. This is his ticket to heaven, for the lack of a better word. This is his ticket to paradise. Everything that he believes in, everything that he believes should be righted with this world, the things that he wants to overthrow, democracy, freedom of speech, all of that. This is the most important thing that he can do to ensure that those beliefs are met. This is his stamp on the destruction of Western civilization. Now you're probably telling me, well, James, it's only one guy. James, this is one guy, man. Yeah, a couple people died, but this is one fella. It's not. Okay? These terrorist attacks, what they want eyes, they want fear, they want money, they want resources. That's what they want us to use. All right? When they do this terrorist attack, one person, he knows that whatever, they know that all they have to do is cause some destruction, some bleeding, some death. And they know they'll get eyes, ears from every news agency, which is then plugged into almost every household. And they're getting, with this age of technology we have, they're getting a tremendous amount of coverage and a tremendous push for their group, their jihadist group. Back in the day, you couldn't do that before technology. If this guy does this, it's a story in that city, it's a story in that country, never really makes it over here. It's a blip. Nowadays, 24/7 news coverage, doesn't matter how big of an attack it is, doesn't even have to be a successful attack. The fact that it just was happening is enough for people to pick it up. So this guy succeeded in what he wanted to do. This guy gave his life, the ultimate sacrifice. I don't think that's senseless. To me, that's the opposite of senseless. If you're willing to give your life for something, it's because you believe in it more than anything. Now, the war that's being waged, it is time that we understand that the war is being waged. There are people today, there still are people in the media that are afraid to call this a terrorist attack. They are afraid to pin this on the Islamists, the radicals, the jihadists. Look, y'all aren't dumb. You can't be dumb and listen to this show. This show may be the highest form of intellectual people listening in any other show in the world. We do it all here. Critical thinking. We're thinking outside the box. Strong conversation. So y'all are not dumb. The parallels are there. Using the car, the machete, the descent. Every single aspect of it screams of the jihadist movement. We saw it in Nice in France when the guy used the car, plowed over 60 plus people. We've seen it all over the place. This was a terrorist attack. This was a jihadist move. This was from the Islamic radicals. And this is part of the war. This is war. It's really, really easy to sit in America and not envision this happening on our streets, right? It's easy to sit back in whatever city you live in America, and say, well, this doesn't really happen here. What happens here is sneak attacks, bombs, suicide bombs, jets flying into buildings, Boston bombing. You run into a store, shoot up some people. We don't deal with this on the street every day, like they do in Europe, like they do in London, like they do in France, like they do in Germany. When you import or you allow 50,000, 30,000 of these like-minded radicals into a culture, like let's say London, you invite a war. You're not inviting a culture, you're inviting that war mindset. I saw a video today. It wasn't from today, it was from previous, but I saw the video today. And it was of radical jihadists standing in the streets of London, and across from them was locals. And the jihadists were, saying, go to hell, Britain, go to hell, screw you, screw this, screw the white man, you'll all bow down to Allah, the same normal stuff. And the locals were screaming back, go home, what are y'all doing here? And it was a terrible scene. And it got a little physical, there was some pushing and shoving, police were there, police were getting involved. Police were protecting everyone, the freedom of speech, whatever. We don't see that in America, right? We don't see the actual war. We see the bombs, the explosions, the death, that stuff. And then we wave the red, white, and blue, and it's over until the next one. They deal with these things all the time. You've seen the videos from Germany of the awful attacks on women, the awful attacks on the German people, all in the name of this culture dominating, this radical movement dominating. Yes, I do agree that it's a small sect of the Islamic faith. We're not generalizing. But it's a big enough sect to basically hold the whole world hostage. The reason that they're holding the whole world hostage, I alluded to it earlier, is because they have nothing to lose. They have nothing. They're not defending anything. They're constantly attacking. When 12 fall, 24 replace them. You can't blow up a building because they don't have a headquarters. They'll just go to the next one. You can't run them out of a city because they don't have a city. They'll just go to the next one. America, we have a lot to defend. Freedom of speech, women's rights, democracy. This thing that we call a country, this thing that we call life as we know it. We have this to defend. We cannot lose this. This jihadist group, they don't have that to defend. Everything that they want, everything that they have is in the future, in a different world. It doesn't exist. This mindset of this Allah-dominated, pushing their culture into places and pushing other things out, that is all future hundreds of years. It is a holy war they are battling they will never see. They are planting a garden where they will never see the fruit. But they believe that the fruit will be so great that it's worth their time. It's worth their life. It's worth their sweat, their blood, their tears, their own existence. These suicide bombers, they believe that what they're doing by dying will garner fruit so large for their people that they're willing to die for that. And when you have this mass group of immigrants from these countries going into these places like London, like France, this is going to happen. And if you brought that into America, it's going to happen too. I saw a stat today that said that last year alone, a Al-Qaeda magazine, what was the name? Inspire, I believe. Inspire, was that the name of the magazine? I think it was called Inspire. But it was basically an Al-Qaeda manual, like a terrorist booklet, instruction manual magazine, was downloaded over 50,000 times in London. 50,000 people downloaded a terrorist magazine, a terrorist outline, guideline booklet. That is a ton of people. 50,000 people want what happened out there today. They want destruction. They want Western civilization to be destroyed. And they're walking the streets. They didn't download the magazine over in Syria. They downloaded the magazine in London. Think about that. Those people walking the streets are like-minded with the people decapitating, the people raping, the people pillaging. The same people walking the street, downloading that magazine, they believe in the complete suppression of women. They believe that women should have no rights. They believe that women are for breeding and breeding only. Living in the city. Our surveillance in America or around the world is severe, strong. We spend a ton of money, billions of dollars, across the globe, watching these terrorists, waiting for them to do something. But when they do it, it's already done. The amount of surveillance that we do here, the amount of surveillance they do in London, can only do so much when all that needs to happen is events like today. Just knowing the terrorists are there is not enough. The only way that we can win this war, when I say we, I don't mean America. I don't mean males. I don't mean white males. I don't mean white Americans. I don't mean Christians. I mean decent, rule-abiding, democratic countries, Western civilization, people who are normal, law-abiding humans. This is a serious, serious conflict at the very, very level of civilization itself. This is not something as simple as, oh, well, they don't like who the president is, or they don't like this rule. This is they want to change the way that people exist on this planet. They want to change the very foundation of civilization. We've read on this show laws that are in place in countries with severe jihadist strife. Countries, laws that claim that it's okay to marry a 13-year-old woman. That as long as you're married to someone over the age of 12, you can't rape them. Rape doesn't exist in that case. Laws such as women can't leave the house unless their husband allows them to. There is a serious difference and the radicals and the jihadists and the rest of Western civilization, the rest of the civilized world. There is a real issue at war here, or we are at war. And I think it's time that our people and our country understands that. It's time to stop with the political agendas. It's time to stop with what you may believe is the right thing with immigration, the way you believe that people should be allowed to come in the country. That is over. It's now time for you to believe at the most foundational level what you believe civilization should look like. Do you want it to look like that? Raping, beheading, murdering, suicide bombing. Is that what you want? Or do you want what we have in America, in Western civilization? Because that is what we're fighting for. I want to tell a quick story. This is on the same topic. I had the privilege. It's interesting that this happened today, because yesterday I was thinking about what we were going to talk about on the show for Wednesday's show, and I saw a news story pop up on Fox News, and it just randomly popped up on my Facebook feed, and it was from the Vicar of Baghdad, Canon Andrew White, maybe the most famous priest in the world. And it was the headline was, let me pull it up right now so I get it right. The headline was, "Christianity in Iraq is finished," says Canon Andrew White, Vicar of Baghdad. The personal story is, I know Canon Andrew White. I've interviewed him. I've sat and talked with him for hours. And I think about him all the time. I met him once when I was working at the newspaper, the Sun Herald, in South Mississippi, before I changed my career to talk to the millions. I was working on Saturday. On Saturday, there's one reporter and an editor. I was the only reporter. Saturday shift is for, you cover a festival in the morning, something happening light, and then you handle breaking news. The Sunday paper's already figured out. They already know what the Sunday paper is. They already know, what's happening. So Saturday is pretty low key. And I was sitting at my desk just kind of putting some stuff together, and someone knocked on the door, walked in. It was a normal man. It was a South Mississippi man, and he was like, "Hey, Andrew White is here in Mississippi for a couple of days. He's in Gulfport or Long Beach. He was in Long Beach. He's in Long Beach which is about 30 minutes outside of Biloxi." And so he said, "Do you want to interview Canon Andrew White? He's outside in the car." And I said, "Yeah, I would. Yeah, whatever. I have no idea who this guy is, but yeah, let's go ahead." So they brought him in here, and he's an incredible human being. I would very highly recommend you to Google him and all that stuff. So he walks in. He's got like 4 people with him. He has bodyguards, his handlers. He's got a ton of people with him. He's an incredibly important person, not only in the Christian faith, not only in the religious world, but just in general. He is the Vicar of Baghdad, right? He is the only practicing Christian priest in Baghdad, the last one. And he is the kind of the communication for Shiites and Sunnis. He's the last bastion of Christianity in that war-torn area. So, and he has dealt with ISIS, ISIL. He's dealt firsthand with these people. He's talked to these people personally, been in their camps, trying to reason with them, trying to negotiate with them. And so I had no idea what I was going to talk about with this guy. And so I sit down, and me and him talk for, I do an interview for about 30 minutes for my story. We talked for probably 3 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. Most of it never made print. Most of it never made anything. It was just me talking to this man who I found fascinating, and who had an incredible amount to give to anyone talking to him. And so we sat and talked for a long time, and after we talked, I think he might have said a blessing over me or something, but he gave me a cross from Bethlehem, and he said he wanted me to have it, and we became Facebook friends later on. I see his updates all the time. I try and keep up with him to see how he's doing, because obviously it's a terrifying area over there. He's had to live basically in a bulletproof vest because at any given time, he's a target. But the reason I bring that up is because I see the article about him and I started to think, man, I hope he's doing okay. Stuff is just terrible over there, and I know he's going to fight the good fight until it's over. And then this came out, and I saw on Facebook a lot of the stuff he was saying about this whole thing, and the reason I bring him up is because when I was talking to him, is over here in America, we're so lucky, we're so privileged to not have to deal with like a war-torn living environment. And when you hear stories from people who are there, right, you hear, like Ken Andrew White told me how he would see school children playing, and then 5 minutes later, after a suicide bomber or a drive-by, explosion, that those same children's body parts were littered on the front lawn and streets of his buildings. And he would have to clean up, help the families clean up these awful atrocities. And he would see people beheaded and murdered and shot almost daily. And it really opened your eyes to what is happening and how serious the situation is. And I hope that the people listening, I hope that the people watching today's terrorist attack understand that this isn't something happening far away. Just because it happened in London doesn't mean it doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect you in the sense of you don't have to see it, but it is a war against your very belief. That's why I said at the beginning of the show, this isn't a creed, color, race, religion thing. This is on a human level. If you like living in America, if you like living in Western civilization, if you like living free, then you have to stand on this side. Because that side can't be reasoned with. They can't be negotiated with. They don't care about that. They don't care about any of that. Because they don't have anything to negotiate with. They don't want money. They don't want the things that normal people want. They want something that they can never have. This idea that, jihad and this movement will encompass the globe, and that all shall kneel before them and before Allah. And that won't happen. I believe the United States and Western civilization will win this war. And so I'm not afraid of the jihadist movement. But I would be terrified if I lived in London, if I lived in a place where tens of thousands of people from these war-torn areas, or even there have been ISIS fighters that have been allowed back into London. Think about that. If I knew I was living in a city where ISIS fighters were allowed back into, where walking the streets were protesting radical Muslims, I would be terrified. And there are places like that in America. There are places like that in Europe. Just because it's not happening in your city, don't think it's not happening. This is a tough time right now. Because this has been happening for a long time. And I hope that with each terrorist attack, it opens people's eyes a little more to how serious this issue really is. And how it's not just saying, oh, I think that we should have open borders. Oh, I think anyone should be able to come to America. It's much more than that. People, your way of life, as you know it, in every single way, is under attack. And you're going to have to wake up and realize that and defend this incredible way of life that we have, or keep turning a blind eye to it, and eventually it will be on your doorstep. And it will affect you. And then it was way too late. Way too late. Time is almost perfect. Time is almost right on the dot of where we usually end the show. That was a That was a lot to take in. And I wish we could talk about this for longer. I wish we could take calls. I wish we could do all that stuff. But right now, in this infancy of the show, the only way we can do this is the way we do it. So if you want to see the show be longer, if you want to see involvement, if you want to have the ability to call in, all that stuff, please rate and review the show. It is incredibly important for visibility. It is incredibly important to get this out there so that those hack, schmuck chumps that are on your local, go out to your car right now, or if you're in your car, after you listen to this show, flip it on to the local radio station and hear what they're talking about, and hear the kind of just nothingness that they're trying to force feed you, and then flip it back over here, and then re-listen to the show, and then go to iTunes, hit rate and review, 5-star of course, why not? We're only bringing you what you need to know. We're bringing you truth. We're bringing you the stories that you need to know happening around the world. And we're giving you insight, out-of-the-box thinking that no one else can do. Thank you if you've made it this far through all that. I really do appreciate it. Even if you made it halfway, whatever. Or I don't know how you'd be listening to this part if you listened halfway. But you know what I'm saying. But thank you again a million times over. I really do appreciate it. The texts and messages and comments and reviews mean so much to me, and it allows me to work 8, 9, 10 hours a day and do this, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very, very, very much for sticking through this. I really do love each and every one of you. Even though I haven't met you, send me an invitation to your wedding. I'll be there with bells on. I will talk to you on Friday. We will, if there's more developments in this story, we will hit them on Friday, podcast on Friday. Enjoy. The March Madness starts tomorrow. I forgot about that. We were going to talk about that before all this happened. Enjoy yourselves. I hope your bracket does not get busted. We need Kentucky to beat UCLA. We need Kentucky to beat UCLA, and we need Gonzaga to advance. Please. Daddy needs the money. Not that I would ever bet on my bracket, but the fun money. The funsies. I need the funsies, please. Please. Guys, you know what this has been. This has been the James Skrmetta Show.